From the 1 in a billion athlete who left a veteran doctor stunned simply because he had never seen any human being quite like him, to the guy who escaped from the depths of poverty to become maybe the biggest puncher to ever walk the planet. Let us know in the comments below before the video starts who your top 5 would be. Let's get into it. What is it that makes Francis Ngannou a prime example of a lab-grown fighter? Well, how about that insane punching power? The type of one-shot in his hands that enables him to spark opponents unconscious without even landing cleanly. This guy's life has been insanely hard, and hearing his story of rising up from the sand mines of Cameroon to his escape to Europe is truly inspiring stuff. But it was on those days of hard labor in the hot sun that Ngannou built his formidable inner strength. Seriously, this guy ended up suffering as a child and a teen so he could separate fighters' souls from their bodies as an adult. There has never been a puncher like Ngannou, and to be honest, we're not even sure if we can imagine another heavyweight coming into the sport with the type of conditions necessary to build that type of pop in his shots. This dude is just on another level.
You enjoy being called a psycho?
I don't think I am, but I think they say the same thing about crazy people. They say, like, if you don't...
You don't realise that.
You don't realise you're crazy. It's just everyone else has to deal with it.
Did you break your arm at some point in the fight?
Just a scratch. We have to see. I can see Hooker just sitting there being like, hearing it going pop, 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 pop.
Talk to anyone who knows Dan Hooker and they'll tell you that he's a legitimate crazy person. Sure, he's seemingly a nice guy and would probably be cool to go for a few beers with, but there's something truly dark lingering under the surface with this dude. Everyone from his teammates and former opponents to UFC brass and even Joe Rogan has commented on just how much this guy enjoys combat. And we don't mean in a live by the sword, die by the sword kind of way either. Nah, he genuinely seems to get giddy when punched in the face. Who can forget his glee after being busted up by Mateusz Gamrot coming into the final round?
I love this.
Joyfully telling his corner that he's loving every second of it. And then he went out there and won the fight. There's just something off about this dude, and we absolutely love it. There are fighters who think they're about that life, and then there's someone like Hooker who is genuinely on the brink of being declared legitimately insane.
I ain't gonna lie, this was cold.
It's pretty badass.
This was cold, man.
It's pretty badass.
And it ain't one of those special little arrows either, like bow and arrows. Like, it's one of them he just made in the house.
Why does Alex Pereira make the cut? Well, how about double champ status in 2 different sports? And an insane aptitude for a sport that he was seemingly way too old to take up. Alex Pereira was already set for life on the back of his career in kickboxing. But then, when Israel Adesanya made the tragic mistake of calling Alex out, he somehow spurred Pereira on to drop everything he was doing, commit to MMA full-time in his 30s, and somehow climb all the way into a UFC title fight. Not only did Poatan somehow win that fight in dramatic fashion in the 5th round to steal Izzy's belt away, but then he went on to become an even bigger success than the last stylebender, adding the ultimate insult to injury. Yeah, this is one of the most unique athletes to ever grace combat sports.
Puts his forearm across my face for the face crank.
Robert Whittaker, like seeing him breaking Robert Whittaker's jaw just by squeezing across his face.
Khamzat Chimaev was so committed to becoming a star that he decided to force us to accept him as a star by competing twice in 10 days, butchering both opponents and setting a new record in the process. Then he decided to take a fight at middleweight, knocking out Gerald Meerschaert in just 17 seconds. Hype levels were officially through the roof, and if one thing was clear, it was that this dude was absolutely crazy. After suffering through health complications and nearly retiring, he then returned to the cage as a star and decided to lift his opponent, top 15 ranked Li Jingliang, through the air while shouting at the UFC president that he's ready to smash everybody. Khamzat is just on a different level of intensity. Robert Whittaker had the misfortune of feeling that firsthand when Chimaev's grip basically busted up his teeth and his jaw within seconds of applying the crank. This guy doesn't even seem human at times, but he is, and he's one of the biggest freaks in the sport.
I've been studying human beings. I've been working on people. I've been operating on people for 50 years. He goes, I've never seen a human like him.
What can we even say about Yoel Romero that hasn't already been said? He spent his formative years within the infamous Cuban Olympic wrestling program, trained to be a super athlete in every sense of the word. Yoel had already had a career well worth being proud of by the time he was 32, and then he decided to make his MMA debut. Next thing we know, this genetic freak was bulldozing his way through the UFC middleweight division, brutalizing former champs like it was nothing to him. There might not be a more explosive fighter in UFC history than Yoel. Supposedly, Joe Rogan spoke to a doctor he knew who was truly shocked by Romero's physical makeup, at how there were things about him that legitimately made no sense. And even now, approaching the age of 50, he still puts most young athletes to shame. This man was put on this planet to be an athlete. And when it comes to lab-grown specimens, Yoel Romero simply has no equal. But who do you think is the biggest example of a lab-grown fighter in MMA history, and how did your guess hold up against ours? Enjoy this video? Well, why don't you support the channel by checking out some of our other uploads? Thanks for watching!